Hey, welcome everybody. Episode 229 of the Winning Momentum Podcast. I am your host, Scott Sinclair. Hey, have you been following the Deion Sanders news in Colorado lately? Deion Sanders, first of all, for context, if you don't know who Deion is, most of you know, but if you don't, I know some of my listeners are international or younger or older. Maybe you don't know Deion. He's an American athlete. He played in the National Football League for 14 seasons. He won 2 Super Bowl titles, a bunch of individual awards. He was elected into, if that's what they do, but he was put into the 2011, he was into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So an outstanding athlete in football, in American football. He also played unusually 9 seasons of Major League Baseball, so professional baseball, and was in a World Series in 1992, making him the only athlete in history, as far as I know, to play in both a Super Bowl and a World Series. After Deion retired as an athlete, he pursued a career as a sports analyst and went into coaching, which is relevant to our episode today. He served as the head football coach at Jackson University from 2020 to 2022 and led the team to 2 consecutive Celebration Bowl appearances. This is college football. I don't know anything about it, college football in the U.S., but that would be their quote-unquote championship. So 2 consecutive Celebration Bowl appearances and the first undefeated regular season in school history. Near the end of 2022, Sanderson was named head football coach at the University of Colorado in Boulder, Colorado, not too far from where I run a business, and I'd actually like to get to see one of these games just for him, not because I have a particular interest in American college football, but it'd just be cool to catch on to this story, which is probably one of the biggest stories in the U.S. right now, sports stories in the U.S. right now. So when Sanders took over at the end of 22, Colorado in 2022 was by all measures a terrible organization. They had gone 1-11 for their 2022 season, 1-11, 1 win, 11 losses in their 12 games. The year before that, 2021, they'd gone 4 wins, 8 losses. So 4-8. On a downward spiral. By the way, just for fun, I looked at the history. I just Googled what's the history of the Colorado Boulder College football team results, and it gave me a chart back to 1890. And in 1890, they were also 0-4. They had some good seasons in between 1890 and 2021, I assume. I just thought that was that made me laugh. So why are we talking about Deion? To give you the context about who he is, and he's now in Colorado coaching college football. Well, one of the reasons, or the reason, is that Deion on his social media, he's on TikTok a lot, maybe Instagram too, but he gave a speech to his locker room after taking over in Colorado, and it really caught my attention. And it's something that I think is worth talking about, and that's what we're going to do today and tie it all together to the Winning Momentum content that we've been talking about for a few years now. So a little bit more context, when he took over in Colorado, he changed about 80% of the roster. Okay, so the roster in college football appears to be very, very large. I think the average would be about 105 players. All right. And at the first team meeting in December 2022, Sanders encouraged the players to enter the transfer portal, which I take it to be well, exactly like it sounds, an online portal, a market for athletes so that they can get off his team and go find different schools. And his premise to them was that if you're not a winner, if you're a loser, you shouldn't be here. And secondly, he said, if you can't accept that sort of straight talk, you also shouldn't be here. And so go find somewhere else to play, and we'll bring in some winners. That was basically his pitch. We'll talk more about that in a second. And so ultimately more than 80% players eventually transferred out as part of Sanders' roster overhaul. 80 players out of 100, more than 100, 105. So about an 80% turnover. And so he was giving a speech. And in that speech, he said, when I first came here, I asked you, how many have won? And the reason I asked that is because I want to know how many winners we have. Because it's really, really hard to flip losers into winners. Because it's all about consistency of mentality. I love that. It's all about consistency of mentality. To me, that's the same message as winning momentum. It's why this show is called the Winning Momentum Podcast. It's why my upcoming book, maybe a while now, but the upcoming book and everything that I talk about is about gaining momentum, turning around organizations, turning around yourself, turning around your career, turning around everything that you touch if it needs to be turned around. And you do that by gaining momentum through consistency of mentality. To me, the momentum means waking up every day and just expecting that things today will be a little better than they were yesterday. Think of the opposite. Think of waking up today and thinking that, oh boy, things are going to be a little bit worse than they were yesterday. And yesterday already sucked. So as Deion says, if you expect to lose, you lose. If you expect to win, you win. Consistency of mentality. I saw an interview very recently with Elon Musk on this point as well. He was being pressed by the interviewer about, hey, Elon, how do you face these massive obstacles, the challenges, the objectives that you set out for yourselves that are just impossible? Nobody else is, who's going to Mars? Who's digging tunnels? Who's implanting chips into human brains to, try to improve things that way? How do you face these challenges and stay positive and not be defeated and not turn negative? And it was clear on Elon Musk's face that it didn't really even compute for him. He said, I don't even think that way. I don't have an answer for you because I don't think that way. What I think is, this seems really important to be done, so I will do it. It seems important to do, so I'm going to do it. He spends no time doubting. He spends no time wondering about the magnitude of the obstacle that he has set up. He just expects to succeed. He just expects to do it. That's what he expects of himself, and that's what he expects of his team. Consistency of mentality. Continuing on with the speech, Deion says, this is cool, by the way, this clip. It was just a locker room speech, him pacing back and forth and basically speaking with tremendous persuasion at the players. He says, because it's all about consistency of mentality. It starts with the mind. So we needed a mass exodus. We needed to flip the mind. We needed to clear out the 80% of the people that have a negative consistency of mind and bring in new people that have a positive consistency of mind. By the way, that was his explanation for the 80% turnover. And since we already spoke about Elon Musk, do you remember when Elon Musk bought Twitter, now called X, and he paid billions or tens of billions of dollars, way overpaid, everybody thinks, for this platform? And then what did he immediately do? He got rid of 85% of the employees. 85% of the employees, he got rid of them, and he did it. Most of them left voluntarily, and he did it by saying to them, look, you need to be, in the new Twitter, you need to be all in. You need to be all in. This is going to be hard. You're going to dedicate yourself. You're going to work your ass off. You need to show up. You can't be remote. You need to show up. You don't want to do that, then you're not going to last here. And what you might as well do is go down to HR and pick up that generous package that we've set up for people that just want to leave and don't want to be part of the new culture. If you don't want to do it and you end up getting terminated, the package won't be the same. You can come for us on this ride. You can come with us on this journey, but we need to make changes. And in the Twitter/X world, Elon got rid of about 85% of the employees. very similar to Deion Sanders. And by all accounts, X has been brought from a losing organization that needed a mass exodus to flip the mind. Continuing with Deion's speech, he says it starts with the mind. Your mind tells you if you're going to go to work today. Your mind tells you if you're going to take this play off. Your mind tells you if you're going to cheat a little today. Your mind tells you if you're going to go get it today. Your mind tells you if you will be all you can be today. Your mind tells you if you're going to chill and cut corners today. The mind starts everything. Love that. The mind starts everything. Remember the last, I don't remember if it was last week's show or the week before, we talked about getting better results in life. We talked about getting better results in your business. And I just reinforced the point that we talk about on the Winning Momentum podcast quite a bit, is that different results require different actions. Different actions require different thinking. Different results require different actions, and different actions require different thinking. The mind starts everything. Colorado's season, by the way, when I'm shooting this show right now, they are 3-0. They were 1-11 last year. So far, they've had a perfect season, 3-0. One more win, and they tie the 2011 height of 4 wins. Because it's a national story, the Deion Sanders Colorado football story, Deion Sanders had an interview with 60 Minutes, and the interviewer there was pressing him about the ethical side of changing the roster, telling the players that existed when he showed up that he doesn't want them around if they're going to be losers. If you don't know how to win, if you don't want to be a winner, if you're not going to put in the work, we don't want you here. What are the ethical side of doing that? And Deion said, he said, it's not my job to lie to the student athletes on the team. It's not my job to lie to the student athletes on the team. I think, this was a quote, I think truth is good for the kids. We're so busy lying, we don't even recognize the truth no more in society, end quote. Right? So he says it's good for the kids to tell them the truth, even if it's a harsh truth. We want everybody in society wants everybody to feel good. That's not the way life is, he said. Now, it's my job to make sure I have what we need to win. That makes a lot of people feel good. Winning does. Makes you feel good. The message out of there I like is that we're so busy lying, we don't even recognize the truth. So what do we take from this what do I take, and maybe you can too, from this whole Deion Sanders story? The first point is that it starts with the mind. It starts with the mind. Different actions result in different results. If you want different results, change your actions. If you want different actions, change your thinking. It starts with the mind. A large part of getting the mind on track is the truth, is my second point that I take from this. We all spend too much time, as Deion says, in society, lying to our family, lying to our friends, lying to colleagues and business associates. And I'm not talking about, black and white, I cheated on something kind of lie. I'm talking about just not being brutally honest about winning and losing and putting in the work and making yourself accountable and making yourself responsible. And the reason, so we don't even know we're lying most of the time. And the reason is because first and foremost, we have lied to ourselves. We've lied to ourselves. And why do we do that? Because we want to make everybody feel good, as Deion says. And to me, as he says, winning feels good. Well, it's the same with ourselves. We lie to ourselves to make ourselves feel good, to let ourselves off the hook, to not be accountable to ourselves and to the people around us. That's what I take out of that story, out of the messaging of Deion Sanders, which leads me to Sam Silverstein, a friend of the show. Do you remember Sam from prior episodes? He's a friend of the show, accountability expert, keynote speaker, author. And since I'm going to reference Sam, you should go check out his content, please, at samsilverstein.com. samsilverstein.com. Well, Sam is sending out a weekly, what appears to me to be a weekly newsletter. I'm not really sure of the frequency. I'm sure you can go subscribe to it on his website somewhere. And this week, or the one that I saw this week, was called The Power of Choice. The Power of Choice by Sam Silverstein. And he talks about these 2 points, right? Number 1 point being thinking and mindset, and the number 2 point being truth. And in Sam's newsletter, he says we become what we become because of the way we think. We become what we become because of the way we think. Deion told us that it all starts with the mentality. Sam argues that our choices affect our thoughts, and our thoughts affect who we are, what we stand for, and the footprints we leave on this planet. In other words, it's a choice to be a winner. It's a choice to be a loser. And that choice impacts our thinking. It's a choice to get up in the morning and make your bed, as Jordan Peterson might say and might advise, as he does in his book. It's a choice to take pride in your workspace, which is one of the tricks that we talk about in changing momentum, in a work environment and for an organization. Specifically, there's a 100% correlation between uncared for workspaces and troubled companies, because people have given up. They've given up when they're truly a troubled company, and you can make a different choice. You can clean the bathroom, you can clean the desks, you can repaint the wall and spend no money, spend very little money, take a little pride, and all of a sudden things feel a little bit better today, which is by definition, as I said, winning momentum. It's a choice to take pride in your workspace. It's a choice to wait until tomorrow to do that project, to procrastinate. And these choices affect your thinking, right? Your choices impact your thinking. Elon's choice, as I said when I talked about Elon and his answer to how he overcomes these massive obstacles and the fear and negativity that would come with that, his choice is just to do the thing, right? That's it. Nothing else has even occurred to him. He made that clear. It was painfully obvious in his answer. And so Sam argues throughout our lives that we are faced with these choices. And like it or not, we constantly face with the responsibility of choosing. And there's no escaping this responsibility. Not deciding what to do or how to act in a given situation is in itself a choice. How often do I see in troubled organizations, including my own, by the way, when I cause trouble in them, which I have done from time to time, including right now, that in reality, I just didn't deal with problems as they were arising. People don't deal with problems as they were arising, and things turn worse and they turn into a troubled situation because these people did not decide. They did not choose to make a change, to change their thinking, to drive different actions, to drive different results. Okay. And so deciding to do nothing is a choice. It's a very important part, and it influences your thinking. Making choices also means that we are accepting the idea that we are part of a bigger picture. What does that mean, Sam? It says our choices affect not only ourselves, but the people around us. If you ignore that decision in your business, if you decide not to keep your workspace clean or to have the bathrooms cleaned or what have you, you're impacting not only yourself, but the people around you. Our choices shape our actions, all right? And our actions are received and interpreted by those around us. It starts at the top. It starts with leadership. It starts with accountability. And that all starts with the choices. These actions shape the opinions and feelings of those individuals, and ultimately the actions take for or against ultimately the actions they take for or against us on our behalf. Okay. I don't think I copied that sentence in here very well, but you get the point. So we've talked about Deion Sanders. We talked about Elon Musk. We talked about Sam Silverstein and tried to pull all this together. And we've said that the choices impact our thinking, and our thinking impacts our actions, and our actions impact our result. Well, what precedes the choices? Is there anything that precedes choices? Well, I would suggest to you that it is truth. As Deion says, he thinks it's his job and is good for the kids to tell the truth, not to sugarcoat it, not to make people feel good about things, that it's the truth. And if we accept that, then it becomes truth, leads to choices. Choices lead to thinking. Thinking leads to action. Action leads to results. Truth, choices, thinking, action, results. You want to change the results, you need to start with the truth, okay? Think about, let's think about an alcoholic, an individual who's an alcoholic, nobody we know, hooked on substance abuse, and they're hooked on the substance abuse. And when do they start, if ever, when will they start dealing with their problem of alcoholism in our hypothetical example? When will this ever occur, right? And I think we all know it's when the addict changes, when they hit rock bottom, okay? They hit rock bottom. Well, what does that mean, hitting rock bottom? It's an awakening to the truth. It's an awakening to the truth. If I don't change, if I don't get help, if I don't do something different, I'm just going to die. And I'm going to, if I haven't already, alienate and never recover all of the relationships around me. All right, there's an example we can all understand, either from our lives, not me personally, by the way. I've never known anybody in that position, thank goodness. But, you see it on TV, you see it, you read about it in the literature, right? We all know how this works. The addict has to hit rock bottom. They have to become awake to the truth. They have to accept the truth. And part of that is being at their worst point and realizing that they're just going to die if they don't make changes. It starts with the truth. And when they have the truth, they can start to make different choices. Truth leads to choices. And in this particular example, a choice could be to get some help, right? And when they do that, it changes the thinking. Choices leads to thinking. What does that mean? Maybe once they get some help or start to get some help, they might think themselves as something that's not entirely worthless, a person that's not entirely worthless. Maybe they start thinking there's some hope, there's some light at the end of this tunnel, that they do have opportunity, they do have choices to recover, they do have an opportunity to make amends, right? And so the truth led to different choices, leads to different thinking and hope, and the different thinking leads to different actions, and the different actions lead to the different results. That's, to me, how we pull it all together. That has been the Winning Momentum, one of the platforms of the Winning Momentum content that I talk about here on the Winning Momentum podcast. As an example, I think it was last episode on financing, I talked about a top 10 list, things to do to refinance a troubled company or to turn around a troubled company. It's a similar but not exact list. I have both of those in this content. And the number one item on that list that I've said for turning around an organization, and an organization, by the way, is not just your business that is underperforming. If it is, if you're not satisfied with the results, it's not just the businesses that I consult to or lend to and invest in or buy. It's not that. It's not just that. It is that, but it's not just that. It's also organizations that we've talked about today, like X, Twitter, like the Colorado football team. These are organizations that were troubled, highly troubled. And the first thing on my checklist is to admit you are in trouble. Accept that you are in trouble. Because so often, I talked about this last week. You just see pitches for financing, for investment, and it's always, we've had this bad patch. It's not our fault. There's this shit that happened, and it's all going to be better. Like as soon as you give us more money, things are going to be completely different. Here's if you're on the audio part of this, you won't see it, but think in your head a hockey stick. Here's the chart of things going up and being way, way better. Right. So you just hear that pitch over and over again. What you never hear or rarely hear, and it's why I have been in my career so successful and why Sinclair Range, my company, is so successful at dealing with troubled businesses, is a flat out admission that we are in trouble. Here's the reasons why, and here's the changes we've made, and here's the business plan that changes as a result, and you can partner in that. That's basically the pitch, right? It's more complicated than that. You can go back and listen to those episodes. I keep covering it over and over and over again, so you can subscribe here and hear it on future episodes. But it all starts with admitting you're in trouble. It all starts with truth. And when you admit the truth, when you admit that you're in trouble as a business, now the choices become obvious to you. The choices become obvious. If you didn't think you were in trouble, if you thought, things are going to change like tomorrow, then maybe you don't want to fire that high-priced executive that's a nice to have, but not a critical. And when I say fire, I mean lay off, terminate. You can't afford to pay the person, right? Maybe that's a thing. Maybe you need to break that lease. Maybe you need to sell that piece of real estate and bring in some cash. Maybe there's 100 things that you would be doing differently if you viewed yourself as a troubled company rather than a good company in a small patch of trouble. It's an entirely different mindset. It's an entirely different way of thinking, and it starts with the truth. It starts with the truth. Admit that you're in trouble. Then everything's on the table for choices. Break that lease, restructure, make whatever changes are needed to generate different results. The formula to get better results today is truth, leads to choices, leads to thinking, leads to action, leads to results. You want better results? You need to change your actions. All right. I think that's going to be a short one today. Going to run about 27 minutes. That's all good with me. This has been the Winning Momentum Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are on every platform that you can imagine. Go and follow, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. It really helps. It really helps the content to give us a thumbs up. So please do that. Maybe make a comment. If you have a request for future topics, throw them in. Throw them in. Let's just throw them in the comments. I'll see them. Somebody will pick them up and they'll get back to me, and I like to address those. Thanks again for listening. I'm your host, Scott Sinclair.